channel. Awesome. All right, so um, welcome to American history. This is post 1877, basically Reconstruction to, we usually get to World War II. Um, yeah. Uh, and I am Professor Holt, Mr. Holt Riley. I don't care what you call me. Don't have a doctorate, so don't call me Dr. Holt. I'll get tarred and feathered. Um, so since you'll be dealing with me twice a week, every week, what you need to deal with. I have an awful sense of humor. I'm very sarcastic, especially when I talk about certain figures in history. I will occasionally not be especially polite about these dead idiots. I'll make awful references, and a lot of times I won't get a lot of sleep, which will make the rest of this worse. I had insomnia for like 10 years, so sometimes I don't sleep real well. But all that said, I'm not going to make this class any harder than it has to be. If you come to class and do your work and ask questions, if you have questions, you will be fine. If you come to class and sleep through class, or if you just don't show up to class, I can't help you. So, yeah. So, let's discuss history. Dates, names, battles, treaties. I have to do a little bit of that for the sake of multiple choice questions. I don't do too much dates. If there's a date that I have you guys know, I'll be real obvious about it. Like, man, guys, this is probably an important date. You should know. More people. Mr. Campbell, yes? Great. Okay. But the way I've been taught and the way I like to teach history is instead a series of questions. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. So, for an example, we'll use the Spanish-American War, which to me is a pretty interesting part of American history that's often overlooked because it's like 10 years before World War One, and like 30 years after the Civil War, so it's in this period of sort of rebuilding. So, who were involved? Spain and America. Great. What happened? They had a war. Easy so far. Where did it happen? Mostly Cuba. That's where most of our attention is going to be. There was some stuff going on other islands, Guam, the Philippines, etc. Although that's a slightly different topic, which we will definitely get to. When did it happen? Mostly 1898. Back then it was called the War of 1898. I'm not really going to bother you guys that much with that particular date. I will be bringing updates when we talk about stuff, but it's mostly just to have like a mental timeline because the book likes to go into things thematically, like 1860 to 1880, like the social aspects, and then the political aspects, and like economic aspects. So it's like 3 separate chapters, but they're all covered in the same time period. So you can kind of have an idea. So for example, 1898, right about 1900, about 15 years before World War One. As I said, about 30 years after the Civil War. This is the tail end of like the Wild West era. I can't speak. The Industrial Revolution's happening, that sort of thing. The why and how is the big question. There's economics, this belief that Cuba should be free of Spain, imperialism, which is a whole separate thing. There was this weird racism against Spain, but also this weird racism against the Cubans that we were helping. Yeah. So that in particular is why history remains relevant, because it's not like a when question. Well, we know when it happened, but the why and how is always pretty open. This is a historical term that I mostly use in my 103 course, so this is something you need to know for a test. But I like bringing it up because it's a historical concept. It's the idea of the historical lens. Basically, when you look back at history, it's always subjective. It's always based on your current view of morality and current issues, etc. So, for example, and I was using Napoleon because I was using this for my 104 course. During the Cold War, we looked back at Napoleon and saw him as somehow socialistic, which that was the stretch. But because, like, well, Napoleon failed, so hopefully Russia was going to fail because we were real scared of Russia. And now at a time when social equality is a bigger issue, we look back at Napoleon and, you know, the French Empire before, or, well, the French monarchy before him, or in the French Republic in between, and, like, see, well, how were the lower classes treated, you know, under the monarchy, under the Republic, and then under Napoleon? Like, were they better off necessarily under Napoleon than they were under the monarchy? And sometimes the answers may surprise you, because Napoleon wasn't as progressive as he liked to act like he was. Now, all that said, it's not wrong to view things either way. It just is important to recognize that you never are going to view things in the past in a completely detached, objective view. You're always going to have your own preconceptions and biases from your experiences being alive. You're not some cold computer. So yeah, that's just how it works. So why do we study history? It's the backbone of our very society, etc. And if you get it, great. You've seen a web series. If you don't worry about it. But why do we care? Why do we care about Spain and America getting into a fight that was not really all that important? Although you could say that this was why Cuba became the way Cuba is today, because we really, really pissed off the Cubans. The argument, those who failed to learn from history are doomed to repeat it, but Spain's not exactly a world player. It hadn't been a world player since technically the Spanish Armada, and that was in like the 1500s. And America's, you know, not an empire. We're not going around taking over countries for their resources or anything. By the way, I wrote this in like 2014. Nothing changes. We learned it's our legacy. The past does shape the present and indeed the future. And history exists in patterns, and people work in patterns. So if we see the patterns of the past and the not so long ago, it does help us to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past, or at least when you're not in power, seeing people repeat the mistakes of the past and simply screaming. So great. American imperialism, we know about the world wars, the Cold War, all that. But since it's American history in particular, there's a lot of politics we got to talk about because we don't have as much of a broad scope of time as we do with, like, my Western Civ course. So why don't we just, you know, talk about the highlights, the fun things, which, I mean, fair, but it would be incomplete. The example I always use is Lord of the Rings, but just the fight scenes. And I do admit that, like, especially if you use the extended edition, that is probably a movie or two worth of content. But there's no explanation as to what's going on. Why are they fighting? Who's fighting? You know, what's at stake for the fight? And the example I always end with, and why are there trees walking around? Although now that I have seen Lord of the Rings, I would include why are the elf and dwarf aggressively flirting with one another. So if you've seen Lord of the Rings, you get it. Who do we have? Okay. Last name? Okay. Oh, I've got you, I think, on my other. class, European history class. Did you transfer from Tuesday, Thursday? I mean, you're welcome to stick around, but I think. Okay. Granted, I printed these out yesterday, so things might have changed since then. Great. Okay. All right. So to put that into this is the entire class right here, this paragraph. The Civil War, which is held up by everything last semester, led to destruction. I can't words today. Of the South's economy, which led to the Reconstruction. Said destruction led many people to head to the West for opportunity. This expanding of land and resources, and also Britain putting a lot of money in for their own, well, to make money back. Push more organizational movement, which is to say the Industrial Revolution, which pushed millions of immigrants to America to make their fortune. As the country got stronger, Europe also continued to get stronger, which eventually led to World War I. We sort of got involved in World War I. Great Depression happened. World War II, which was a direct cause of World War I, or direct cause of the Great Depression, which itself was a cause of World War I. And following World War II, we had the Cold War, which itself was a cause, or which itself was caused by the World War II. So you can't just take a piece out and look at it completely bare of the things that are attached to it. As I always say, if you were to watch a good history documentary, I used to, consider the History Channel something decent back before it was just weird reality shows. But even then, like, a 2-hour history documentary isn't long enough, which is weird to say because there's not enough time to do the background of what's going on. Like, you can't start a World War I documentary with, and then the dude got shot, and now we're doing World War I. It's like, you can't do that. Why is the dude being shot that important? Dudes get shot all the time. There's all this pressure and build up and lead up to Archduke Ferdinand being shot and the country's plummeting into war. So yeah, it's hard to pull a piece out of the story without having the rest of it. So with history existing in patterns, can we use it to predict the future? No, but it can help us to at least try to make the future a better place. Avoid the mistakes of the past. The example that's always used is a land war with Russia. It's an old history joke. To the point that I think I was playing, Hearts of Iron, and that was like a loading screen tip. It's like, hey, try a land war with Russia. It's like, ha ha ha. Real funny. And unfortunately, that's less of a joke now. But you can't just ignore the past because it's always there. It's not something that's like, well, if we just ignore it, we can move on and start anew and do our own thing. It's like it's always there. It's the foundation. Whether you like it or not, it's what we have, and it's what's going to lead us forward. And if you want to really take a step back, history can in fact be traced by its wars, and war never really changes. And again, if you get it, great. If you don't worry about it. Even if the quote and the picture don't go together, but it's okay. So come to class. That's important. All the material that's going to be on the test are going to be up here. I'll be taking it out of the book and putting it up on the board, and only the stuff that's on the board is going to be on the test. There will be plenty of stuff in the book that I'm not going to go over, and at this point I've forgotten because it's been years since I've read the book. Also, the attendance policy is don't miss 2 weeks in a row. That's 4 days of class, but 4 days consecutive. So if you miss a couple of days and you're back, and then you miss a couple more days later in the semester, it's fine. But if you're gone for like half a month, I start wondering if you're in my class anymore. So, you know, but if you do need to be out for an extended period of time, just email me. It's cool. So for those of you in here, because obviously my online students can't see me, this is the book. Yours might not look like this because this is, I think, the first edition. If you can get it, great. If you can get it like free as a PDF, better. If you can't get it, fine. It'd be helpful to have because, as I said, all the notes that I'm using are coming out of the book, so you can like read ahead and already have some of the information in your head, or if you need to like review, you can go back. And also for the papers, which I'll go over in a minute, I use the book as sort of a starting off point, but it's not super necessary if you're having a hard time getting your hands on the book. So don't let that be a stressful thing for you. If you can get it, great. If not, it's fine. There are going to be a few times when stuff on the test will be from sources outside the book, and I will be real explicit as to what those things will be. Usually it'll be like a movie, or not a movie, but like a short video that I'll show you. Be like, hey guys, this is an important thing that I'm showing you, and even then it'll probably be extra credit. So just, you know, pay a little bit of attention. You need to do the work so that I can grade it. If you don't do the papers and the test, I can't grade them. I mean, I can grade them, but you don't want those grades. So yeah, come on exam days, do the papers when they're due, and you'll be fine. And also ask questions. The only way I can know if you need a thing is if you ask me about it. You can ask me in class, you can ask me before class, you can ask me after class, you can email me. I don't really have an office, but if you want to talk like at a time that's not during or immediately before after class, there is like a adjunct office space over on the other side of the building. If you want to talk there, that's fine. It's usually best just to ask in class because somebody else is probably going to have the same question. So if you have questions, cool. Speaking of, I do my best to check my email daily, so if you have any questions, send me an email there. Also, especially for my online students, it's just at fmarion.edu, not g.fmarion.edu. It's not a student account. I've had a lot of students be like, well, I sent you my papers. Like, well, I never got it. And because they're just automatically in their head putting g.fmarion.edu. We'll talk about the paper in just a minute. Also, as I mentioned, with the whole insomnia thing, sometimes I'll be up at 2 a.m. and I will get your email and just like immediately respond. I've had students in the past like email me at 1 a.m. It's like, hey, whenever you get this, if you could, et cetera, and I'll just respond right away and shock them. Also, sometimes on days off, I will sleep well until the afternoon because I've been up late. So I'll get your email and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Sometimes that'll be right away. Sometimes it'll be a little bit later, but I will get your email. I promise. Also, to my online students, I prefer email. The messages through Blackboard take longer to get to me because I don't get alerts right away. So if you want to get a message to me right away, send it through email. I don't know why people are doing Blackboard messages now, but whatever. Also, no. I can't. This was. I didn't think this would be a relevant joke 10 years ago when I put it up originally. I was like, oh, this show's old. It's still going. How is this crap still happening? What are they? And they're somehow like making up new stuff to talk about? I don't know. Like time travel and crap. Anyway, let me get the syllabus ready, and I'm gonna have to change the view so it's gonna make the recording wonky. Alright, yeah, you don't like that, do you? There we go. Now we're seeing back in time. I don't know why it does this. I don't know why it's like, oh, well, you're using a different screen, therefore it's a different format. Great. Okay. This is the syllabus. I'll post it up after class. Yeah, should have plenty of time before my next class. So, yeah, this is us. Monday, Wednesday, 8:30, 9:45. There again is my email. Also, FYI, some of this language is not mine. I borrowed this syllabus from a professor and modified it for myself. I didn't modify everything because once I got enough done, I just was like, all right, this is fine, and put it away. Some of it is still a bit more harsh than I would have worded it. So if you see some things that are like, this must be done this way, probably it's fine. For example, down here, this was hard copy required. I'm like, I'll just strongly suggested it. Yeah, I would like you to have the book if you can, not first edition. Don't do that. Don't be like me and go out and get a first edition because you're anal retentive. If you can get your hands on a hard copy, great. Not, whatever. If there's other stuff, I'll put it up on Blackboard and let you know. Again, for the most part, it'll be a couple of videos that I found that are relevant to what we're doing. I'm not really doing like, there was a, he did like a participation grade? That's too much grading for me. I'm not here for that. So, the essays. There are 2 of them. One is due around the middle of the semester. I had that up before. And I put it away. It will be right before Francis Marion spring break. Because y'all spring break is always weird. Okay. Our spring break is the 16th through the 20th, so it will be due the 13th of March. And then the second one will be due before the end of the semester, which will be at the end of April. So it'll be due the 22nd, because this is Monday, Wednesday. So it'll be due the 11th for us. We'll talk more about it later. It's not super important right now. You got a month. 2 months, sorry. We got 2 months. For a 2 to 3 page paper. It's not super important right now, but I just wanted to let you guys know in advance. Because I know for a lot of schools, your spring break is like after Easter, and that's usually like, it often falls late. Classes end at the end of April for us, and I don't want spring break to be like here, and then there's another, no, we're not doing that. All right. Anyway, for you here in class, I would greatly prefer that you physically hand your paper in, if you can. We have a media center, I think is what they're calling it now, over at the other end of the building. It's that glass room, where you can print your stuff out if you don't have a printer at home. I no longer have a working printer at home. I haven't had one at home in years, so I get it. Printers are dumb. I mean, I like having a printer, but they stop working just for no reason. If you want to email me the paper, fine. Send it via email. but attach it. I've got it down here. Do. Where did... Whatever. Attach it as a Word or PDF document. Make it so that I can get my hands on it immediately. Don't link a Google Drive or Google Doc, because FMU's email filter hates them and will hide them away in quarantine for a week. And then also, oftentimes when I click on the link, it makes me send you a message to send me back permission to then get a link, or then get a code to get to the link. And by then, I'm like 20 papers down. Just let me get my hands on the paper as quickly as possible. Just attach it. Just if you're going to do it through Google Docs, fine. Format it afterwards as a PDF or a Word file, and attach it that way. Please try to get the papers in as soon as you can. I'm not super strict on like 10 points per day, but I will be more strict in how I grade them if you hand them in late. Don't handwrite them. I've only had that happen once, not here, but I did have students like, well, you said to write it. I was like, yeah, right, yeah, whatever. As far as spelling and grammar, one, you should be using something with a word processor, so that should help. But the main thing is make sure I can read what you're saying. If I have to decipher it, you're not going to score especially well. I'm not going to go through and be like, oh, you left off a comma here. That's -5 points. That's not, I don't grade like that. But like, if it's written in a way that I can't tell what you're saying, then that'll be a problem. I mean, we're here in dual enrollment. You guys should be fine. Okay, as far as the tests, 3 regular tests and the final exam, which is just another test. It's weighed the same. It's formatted the same. It's not cumulative. They're all multiple choice and short answer. The short answer are really just multiple choice without the multiple choice. For example, if I had a short answer that was like, where did Spain and America fight the Spanish-American War? You would say Cuba. Like, that's what I mean when I say short answer. Also, I don't know what your high schools are doing to you guys, but you don't have to repeat the question and then answer it. I've had that happen a lot, where students answer like, oh, the America and Spain fought the Spanish-American War in Cuba. So you don't have to repeat the question, guys. It's a lot less writing to do. Yeah. This part was because I was teaching this in spring of 2020, when the plague hit and we suddenly were at home, and I was not sure how we were going to do tests. So that was an adventure. So you can just ignore that part. That's just kind of a relic of the past. Behave. Okay. This. I hate going over this, but it's important, so here we go. Don't plagiarize. When you do your papers, you are expected to use outside sources. That's the point. It's a little research paper. Whatever sources you use, put them in your bibliography or works cited, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. I'm not pedantic like that. When you take information from a source, even if you don't directly quote it, but you're using information that you wouldn't have otherwise known, at least at the end of the paragraph, since we're doing MLA, just put in parentheses either the author's name or the name of the article that you pulled it from, and that's giving credit to where you took it from. If you quote from a source, especially quotations, put the citation in right at the end of the citations, perfect, no problem. Do not just copy and paste an entire article and hand it in as your own. I know how students write, and you do not write like professional articles online. I've had that happen before. Also, if you're related to or friends with other people in my classes, don't write the same paper and turn it in 2 to 3 times in the same class and expect me not to notice it. That's also plagiarism, because it's not your work. Don't do that. Third, and this is a new one, and I hate it so much, ChatGPT or whatever hell the other AI, that's plagiarism, because it doesn't do its own work. It pulls it from all over the internet and just vomits it together, and it's certainly not your work. So don't do that. We can see that too. So, and to further impress upon you why you shouldn't plagiarize, one, if you're caught plagiarizing, you fail the assignment, just flat. There is no, you can redo it, you flat fail the assignment. 2, it goes up to at least the chair of the department. 3, you can be kicked out of this class. First offense. 4, you can be kicked out of the dual enrollment program for plagiarism, because it is academic dishonesty. It's the academic version of a crime. And 5, if this isn't your first time plagiarizing, you can be blacklisted from universities, period. Don't plagiarize. I've never had to go that far with anybody. It's always been just number 1, hey, don't do that again. We're failing you for the thing. Do better. But don't. Just don't. I don't want y'all to be on any of this. If time's getting short and you don't have time to do the paper, just don't do the paper. Because, as I'm about to get to, I can drop a grade and you can just buckle in for later. So I'd rather you just not do it than us have to go through all this. Anyway, you have a disability, qualifies you for academic accommodations, talk to the Office of Counseling and Testing, and we can have you set up for that. If you need to be in a room away from everybody else or have more time, which you have the entire class period for a test, that's usually enough time. But if you want more time, cool. We have a testing center over by the front office. Do what you got to do. Just let everybody know, let me know. We'll take care of it. No problem at all. What else? There's my email again. As I said, I don't have an office, so if you need to talk to me after class, just come up here after class. Or if you want to talk to me over in the adjunct cubby area, that's cool too. Yes. Yes. Yeah, you don't have to ask. Go right ahead. So, the way that the grades are broken down, they're all equal. The 3 tests, I hope we get to 3. Sometimes I have to do 2 tests and then the final. So the 3 tests, the final, which makes up the 4, and then the 2 papers, they're all weighed the same. Which means, as I said, 1 can be dropped. Except the final, because you guys have to be here for the final. So if you goof on a test, just make sure you do both your papers, because I tend to grade pretty leniently on the papers, as long as you don't plagiarize. and that can be dropped. Or if you do really good on your paper or on your tests, and you do like the first paper and you do fine on that, you can just skip the second paper because that's due at the end of the semester when I know you guys are going to have a bunch of other crap due for your other classes. So yeah, it helps I try to make it so it helps everybody. If you need to have a grade dropped, great. If you don't need a grade dropped, then you can just relax on one of your later assignments. Heck, I've had a student who was sick for a portion of the semester, and when they came back, they had a test they needed to do. They just decided, I'll just drop the test rather than like bust my butt trying to review stuff that I was not here for, and that's fine. That's something you can do if that's a decision you want to make. That means you need to do both the other papers and the rest of the test. But point being, you can drop one thing. As I said, short answer, multiple choice, etc., etc. We're not really going to do attendance quizzes. Oh, if you're not here for a test, because life happens, testing center. Keep wanting to point that way. That way's the snack room. So again, testing center over by the front office. If you're not here for a test day, email me, let me know when you think you'll be back and be ready to take the test. I will take your copy of the test and put it up at the front office at the desk, and they will hold it for you until you are able to come in, and you can take it over in the testing room, and you'll be set. Yeah, and again, with the final exam, I can't really exempt you from that one. I'll probably work on that in the future, but as far as this semester, we'll have to stick with that. What else? Yeah, final exam is not comprehensive / cumulative. I should be saying comprehensive. That's easier to say. Which is to say, it's not going to be over all the stuff in the whole semester. It's just going to be another test. It's just going to be the last test of the semester over the last bit of stuff that we went over. So, for example, if we manage to get through everything this semester, which I hope we do, it'll be over the New Deal and World War II, probably. Like, that's how it's going to be set up. What else? Oh, when we do finals, we'll talk more about this as we get closer to finals. For you online guys, you don't need to worry about this part. We have finals on specific days due to just how final schedules are set up. And if it's like last semester, this semester, I'll be here Wednesday, Friday, and the next Monday of that week, of the exams week. And if you're not able to come the day that we have our final, you can come a day that I have finals for a different class. It'll be fine. He has it written here that's, you gotta have an excuse and tell me like at least 24 hours in advance. It's not that big a deal for me because I don't have full classes. There's plenty of room. I would like you to let me know in advance, so if you don't show up for your exam, I don't think you just forgot it, and I'm going to have to give you a 0 for your final, which would be bad. So, yeah. So again, papers and essays. For the most part, I will be using the textbook as like a jumping off point for the essays. Now, that said, that's the default topic. Again, those of you that have had me, you know how this works, where I have like a default topic. For example, I did check, in fact, I can pull it up again here, since we're all in the same place. First paper, I guess for us it'd be the 11th, is about westward expansion. It's about moving west, and there's various reasonings behind that. Railroads, the gold rush. I get a lot of papers on the gold rush. The the Homestead Act, etc. That said, if you want to do other stuff, you can do anything from basically the Reconstruction, Industrial Revolution, basically up to don't do World War I because that's where the second paper starts. So yeah, you're welcome to do other things besides the Journey West, but you can go from Reconstruction era, up to about 1900. Again, if you're sending in via email, this is especially for you online guys. Send it to my email as a Word or PDF document, please. We'll talk more about this later. I'll have this up on Blackboard later. Again, don't plagiarize, please. Good God. So I used to have an exam schedule, but that lasted like my first year of teaching. So the way I do it now is after every 3 chapters we have a test. So, for example, we're starting with chapter 14. So 14, 15, 16, test. 17, 18, 19, test. That's how it's going to be. Yeah. So just after every 3 chapters we'll have a test. And I will be sure to let you know as we're nearing it. Also, for those of you that haven't had me before, after we finish each chapter, as we get near the end of each chapter, I put the PowerPoint up on Blackboard so you can review it. Also, before each test, we do the study guide. There will be a study guide up on Blackboard. If you come to class the day before, we'll go over it. So yeah, you'll be fine. We already talked about this. And again, for you online folks, just email me the paper. There is no Blackboard submission crap because I don't like that. And again, for those of you that do send it to me via email, please send it to me as a Word or PDF document. I think that's it. Any questions from you guys? As a reminder, no, we're not going to be here next Monday. It's MLK Day, so we'll be here next Wednesday. Also, real quick for you online folks, the exams will be through Blackboard, those of you that haven't had me before. So don't worry about all of this. All of this is for my in-person classes. You guys will have the test through Blackboard. You'll send me the papers over email. Everything else will be videos. So, yeah. All right. That'll do it. I'll see you guys Wednesday.